Hey, this is Peggy Morgan of Season 18 of The Ultimate Fighter. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the second episode of the season, but before I start talking about the episode itself, I just want to answer the question that I'm asked most frequently, which is how do I make 135 pounds? I'm 6'1", and if I'm eating whatever I want, I walk around at about 165. If I'm being careful, I'm closer to 155, so no matter what, it's kind of a big cut for me. Basically what I do is I cut as close to 145 as I can using diet, and then do the last 10 pounds by cutting water out. The diet leading up to a fight for me is really strict. Lots of lean protein, limited carbohydrates, no cheat meals in like the last 6 to 8 weeks leading up to the fight. And then once I'm down as close to 145 as I can get, the day before weigh-ins I start dehydrating water weight out. And I usually do that either by sitting in a sauna or by taking Epsom salt baths. I prefer Epsom salt baths just because I feel like the weight comes off a little bit faster, and also because I feel like it's not quite as hard on my body as the saunas. So basically for an Epsom salt bath, what you do is you make the bath water just as hot as you can possibly stand it, and then pour a ton of Epsom salt and green alcohol in the tub, which helps draw the moisture out of your body. It looks something like this. So I stay like that for about 30 minutes, or as long as I can handle it, and then get out of the tub and wrap myself up as tightly as I can in blankets to try to sweat for another half hour, which I also have a picture of. After I've stayed like that for about half an hour, I ideally would try to take an hour off before doing another cycle, but if I'm cutting it close to weigh-ins and I still have a lot of weight to cut, I end up doing rounds closer together. So, I mean, it's been as bad as I'll do half an hour in the tub, half an hour wrapped in blankets, and then 10 minutes off and then right back in, which is extremely difficult and unpleasant. And just as a disclaimer, it's probably really not good for you, and it's really not fun, and it's not something you want to try at home to lose 10 pounds, so don't do it. Walking into the Ultimate Fighter house for the first time was really overwhelming, at least for me, and I think probably for everybody else too. We'd all had a really long day. We'd fought in our elimination fights, and then said goodbye to our friends and family, and then teams were chosen, and then we're loaded by van and taken to this amazing house. And at that point, all I really wanted to do was find a bed to sleep in. I think everybody else probably felt the same way too. I've been asked a lot if the bedrooms were separated by gender, or if the possibility existed for there to be co-ed bedrooms, and it did, and there almost were some co-ed bedrooms. Initially, Shayna, Jessamine, and I were going to share a bedroom adjacent to the kitchen that only had 3 beds, but that left Rousey and Jessica in a room with David, Michael, and Timmy, and Rousey was really uncomfortable sharing a bedroom with boys, so we ended up trading with the guys, so it was Jessica, Shayna, Jessamine, Rousey, and I in one room, which actually worked out really well. We had an awesome bedroom. We were right by the kitchen, right by the front door. The only thing that really sucked was we had this tiny little bathroom. Every other bedroom had like a huge bathroom with like marble countertops and like a lovely double shower or something, and we had this like tiny little closet that we all had to share. But it worked out. So in this episode, one fighter, Tim Gorman, gets sent home early because he tore his hamstring in his elimination fight. I think the episode does a good job of giving you a glimpse into Tim's personality in terms of like, how big and boisterous he was. It doesn't fully show you how loud he was. I know at least the second night there we had to go out a few times and politely yell at Tim to please be quiet because he was keeping us awake yelling in the kitchen. We all genuinely liked him. He's a really cool guy. But at the same time, I think some of us were a little bit relieved when he got sent home because it meant we would be able to sleep. Also, we kind of suspected that maybe he knew he was going to be sent home because most people there were being pretty careful about what they ate because you don't know when you're going to fight next. Anything's possible. And he was walking around a little bit heavy at like 165, and he's still, was tromping around the house wearing a blanket, eating pizza rolls and Doritos and pizza and everything else. So once he got sent home, we're like, he must have known his injury was pretty bad, and that's why he was living it up while he was there. I think the hardest thing to adjust to, other than having cameras on us all the time, was the boredom. We really didn't have anything to do except for hang out with each other. We didn't have movies or music or internet or books or anything to distract us, so basically all we had to do was hang out with each other. It didn't take us long to become aware of this thing that we later called the Tough House Time Warp, which basically meant that one day in the Tough House felt like a week in the outside world. Time moved really slowly there. It didn't take long before we all started keeping countdown calendars in our journals. Instead of saying like the day, we'd start saying 27 days left, 26 days left, It wasn't, this is a terrible thing to say, and I feel bad, but it was to a certain extent like being in prison. But it was like a really nice, luxurious prison, which is why I feel bad. But you do start longing for freedom and wanting to get out and wanting to be able to see your friends and family and TV and just missing the outside world. So that was really difficult to adjust to. I think a lot of people watching this week were probably very shocked by Juliana beating Shayna. I know in the house we fully expected Shayna to defeat Juliana. I don't think anybody thought Juliana was going to win that one. I personally, sincerely really believed Shayna was just going to walk over Juliana without a problem. And Shayna really believed that too. She wasn't just talking shit. She was fully confident that that was going to be an easy fight for her. There was probably a moment in the first round where I was like, whoa, Juliana's doing really well. Maybe she could win this. And then sometime in the second round, it really hit me that Juliana probably was going to win it. And it was, I think the camera panned to me, and there's kind of a moment where I'm shaking my head. And it wasn't in disappointment at Shayna or anything like that. It was more like just disbelief in the situation. I mean, it stinks for Shayna. She's worked a long time to have that opportunity. She's been fighting longer than any of us except for Jessica in boxing, and I think Roxy's been in it about as long as Shayna. So it was tough to see her take that loss, but it was also really, really inspiring because seeing somebody like Juliana, who nobody thought was going to win that, who lacked the experience, who maybe doesn't have the same level of skill as her opponent, she just got in and she didn't care. She brought the fight. And for me, it was definitely a moment where I was like, you know, this thing is still up for grabs. Anybody here could win this. So I was definitely very inspired by Juliana and by that fight. So after Juliana beat Shayna, Misha chose Chris Beal to go up against Chris Holdsworth. I definitely believe she chose Chris Beal because his right hand was injured. Striking is really Chris's strong suit, and to pick him while he had that injury, strategically it makes sense. I can't really hate on her for it because it is a tournament and it makes sense to take him out at a moment of vulnerability. I can't give anything away, obviously, but I think next week's episode is going to be great with the fight and with all the drama between the coaches, and you guys should definitely tune in to see that. That's about all I have for this week. As always, if you have any questions, please tweet me. It's at Peggy Morgan MMA. I'm doing my best to at least respond to all of my tweets. There's definitely questions I can't answer yet, but I'm answering the ones that I can, so do tweet me. I'll talk to y'all next week. Just want to say thanks to my coaches at Mass BJJ and Triumph BJJ, and also to Mike McCandless at smartpowders.com for all his help. All right, thanks.